high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi everyone, this is Mary McCusker. Thanks for tuning in to Talking Catholic. Apparently, the last time I sat down with Mike Walsh to record, I didn't sound peppy enough in the intro, so I'm trying to sound as enthusiastic as I actually feel.
You have such a long memory. You know what the thing I remember?
I've never heard that before.
You do. You have a long memory because you always remember when I make those little comments. What I remember is that I had to do the last episode by myself because you weren't able to make it. That's what I remember. But that was a great. I'm sure you didn't go back and listen to it, but it was really a wonderful episode
we did. But I'll get there.
We did it with Katie Comerford Rivera, who is the associate development director for the Diocese of Camden. It was all about fundraising. Plus, I did something I hadn't done in years and years and years.
What's that?
I did a roundup of Catholic news going around in South Jersey and globally.
Wow.
It was kind of nice. It was kind of like an old school episode,
Like a news announcer type thing.
Yeah.
I can't picture that.
Well, you know what? It's recorded. You can go back and listen to it. But it was me. I always make fun of my co-hosts whenever they do like an NPR style startup. It felt kind of like that.
People
I don't know
listen
if I was...
to podcasts to be soothed. Well, maybe not. Or inspired.
Okay. I actually don't know why people listen. I do it for informative
I like a nice
reasons
calming,
only. No, I'm not that
atmosphere,
style. But you and I are in the midst of craziness.
Yes,
because this is an opportunity to announce some new news, something I didn't bring up last week, but I'm going to bring up this week, is Catholic Charities, Diocese of Camden, has announced its 17th annual Justice for All dinner and awards ceremony honoree for this year. And who is the honoree for this year?
We are honoring the Knights of Columbus
as a global entity, right?
Yes, that's correct.
We are honoring all Knights of Columbus.
Yep, and I believe you're a knight too, Mike.
I am,
I hate to say that we're technically honoring him.
Oh, you hate to say that. It's so cool.
But no, we're really excited because, I know Bishop Sullivan is a knight himself. He loves his fellow knights, and especially during the pandemic, they really stepped up their efforts to respond to disaster relief, and they've been very generous in their contributions to Catholic Charities and other food banks. And honestly, I didn't know that much about the Knights until we started promoting this and the Justice for All dinner. And it's like the more you look into it, you realize, oh my gosh, they do so much, not just locally, but nationally and globally. So we're really excited. It's different than, in previous years where we've honored an individual. It's kind of this wonderful organization.
Yeah, and it really is. And the Justice for All dinner in and of itself, if you're not familiar with it, it's been going on for almost 20 years now. This year it's going to take place at Resorts Hotel in Atlantic City like it has the last couple of years. It's on October 14th. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to catholiccharities.camden.org/JFA. We use the
JFA 2021.
JFA 2021. It's a fantastic event. It's unique in the sense that every dollar raised goes out the door.
Right.
None of the money raised goes towards administrative fees,
right,
event costs, or anything like that. So I think last year we did it virtual.
We did. That was interesting.
That was interesting because you and I were pulling out our hair out for like 3 weeks trying to get that thing all recorded and put together. But that was a great event, and it actually ended up being a good fundraiser event too. I think we raised $150,000 plus. I
don't remember
year.
The exact number, but I remember being blown away thinking, everyone's struggling during this pandemic. Are people actually going to donate? And they did, including people who I know have been struggling or their business has been hit hard. But just seeing that outpour of generosity and like you said, just knowing that every single penny goes directly to clients who are in need.
Yeah, it's amazing whether it's paying their electricity bill or food or rent or whatever.
It's like ending crises, whether it's, like you said, housing, utility shutoffs. I mean, can you imagine in this heat, during this heat wave, not having electricity or a working air conditioning? I mean, things like that where people are really in desperate need. So please support our dinner. Feel free to come. We're excited to meet in person. Unlike last year, I know it was virtual, but Resorts is great. The honorees are wonderful. It's a really, really great event.
It really is. And the Knights of Columbus definitely are deserving this year with everything they did. In the in the heart of the pandemic, they were donating millions of dollars to dioceses and Catholic charities from around the country and around the world, actually, to really make a difference in, quite frankly, keeping the lights on for a lot of places.
Right. And we're also, I have to throw this in there, honoring 5 Disciples of Mercy. And real quick, those awards we've been doing since 2015 during the Jubilee Year of Mercy. And they're a way to recognize people on the local level in the diocese who are, I feel like everybody knows someone who's like that humble, unsung hero in their parish, who they don't go looking for praise ever, and they just carry out their work day in, day out, especially, working with people who are vulnerable. So for each deanery, we award one person or a small ministry, and those nominations are open until August 30th. So if anyone's listening to this and you know someone who's really stood out and you want to recognize them, please submit a nomination.
Yeah, I was actually on the nomination form today, as a matter of fact, perhaps nominating somebody.
Oh.
And it's a very simple form to use. Same deal. Go to CatholicCharitiesCamden.org. You'll see JFA stuff all over the place. Mm-hmm. I did use the shorthand of /JFA, and it took me right there.
Oh, and it did go there. Perfect.
It did go right there. And the nomination form's right at the top. It's very simple. It takes you maybe 5 minutes to write something up. It's real easy. Name, address, blah, blah, blah. A little explanation as to why they're being nominated. And the people we've had in the previous years are truly
just wonderful.
It is, for me, for all of the great honorees we've had at the JFA in terms of our named honorees, I get a real kick out of the Disciples of Mercy.
I know. And at Catholic Charities, I see the good work day in and day out that our case managers do. But then it's like, oh my gosh, there are people all over doing this for free every day. The work they put. I mean, it's been very inspiring, and
it really is. Come to think of it, we can probably talk about this more when we invite one of our guests on. Because I seem to recall one of our guests is associated with one of the ministries that were awarded in previous years.
Right.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So, but we'll talk about him in a couple of minutes. So, to all of our friends, we certainly hope that you'll take an interest in this year's Justice for All. If you know knights, please let them know that they are being honored this year. We'd love to see good representation. If you mentioned it earlier, Mary, that if there's one thing this bishop likes to do, he likes to remember the knights. They come to every one of his confirmations. They take part in all of our major masses. He loves to spend as much time as he can with the knights. Is truly impressed with what they do in their parishes and in the communities, and certainly everything that they do around the world, and taking care of all of us.
Yeah.
So they are certainly a deserving honoree. So we're very excited to have them as our main honoree this year. So before we get to that, there's another event going on in the diocese that we have talked about in previous years a wee bit. But, this is the first year it's going to be done in person. It's in almost 2 years now. And we thought it'd be a good idea to bring back our good friend, Jose Rodriguez, and a friend of his to talk about the Summer in the City program. A program you, of course, as well, Mary, are intimately attached to, as well as having been a participant.
I wish I was of the qualifying age group to participate, because every time I talk to somebody who's participated in it, I'm just like blown away by what I hear and the stories they have, the takeaways, and it's one of my favorite events to hear about in the diocese.
So, Jose, welcome back.
Morning.
He should have done the intro. He's peppy enough.
Hey, everybody.
He is peppy. That is true. That's a very good point. And he's wearing a very peppy attire. We don't usually do photographs from the actual event, but our actual recording.
Yeah.
But we're going to do today because people need to see the shirt.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's
just mood,
something
man.
Else. It's a vibe.
He is in full summer mood. No doubt about it.
How are you today, Jose?
I'm well. I'm excited. We're moving forward. We're getting things rolling, and there's a lot going on, but it's all good stuff.
So before we move any further, you've brought with us a guest. Can you introduce our guest?
Sure. So our guest comes to us from Most Precious Blood here in Cherry Hill. She has been, the last couple of years, a staple of the Summer in the City program. And I'm not going to say too much more because then she's not going to have much to say. So with us, we have Yen Nguyen.
Hi, guys. It's Yen.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
No, this is great. So it's true that we've actually done many episodes about the summer in the city, and each year they tend to be my favorite episodes because I love being around younger people. In Jose's case, youngish people, and it's the. Before we go too far down the line, Jose, what is the Summer in the City program?
So, Summer in the City is a week-long immersion experience. We have young people, the high school-aged young people from all over the diocese come and spend a week together in the Atlantic County area. So we've stayed at Holy Spirit High School before, but the last couple of years we've been staying at the Blessed Carlo Acutis Diocesan Youth Center, which just happens to be on Holy Spirit campus grounds. So from there, we go out every day, and the young people are broken into families, and each family has a different service site. They'll go to the service site for the day, get to meet people, get their hands dirty, get to work, and then come back, and there's activities and reflection and prayer, all based off of the Gospel of Matthew 25.
Matthew 25, a common
Catholic
refrain.
Charity's favorite
Right.
passage.
I believe that passage has been brought up on this podcast probably more than any other.
It's one of my favorites.
But we tend to fall into the service side of our faith a lot, which is why it gets brought up a lot.
Right.
So
now you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You said an immersion experience.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that means versus like a retreat, a trip? I don't know what else to call it. How do you define that?
I say immersion because they have to put in the work.
Okay.
So we'll send them to a work site, and they're not there to watch other people work or how this works or how they're taken care of. They have to do it. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then they miss out. You miss out on the whole point of Summer in the City. Summer in the City. I don't know what that was. So they have to do the work, and in that, when they immerse themselves in the work, they make connections, and their lives are changed, their attitudes are changed, and they understand what it truly means to serve, instead of kind of just watching it, right?
And it's not just like a 1 week, you go, you come back, and it's over and done with. It sounds like it's something that really sticks with people well after they leave.
The idea is for it to stick with the participants, and then them go home to their home parishes and continue to do the work and try to find ways to continue to serve, and live that gospel for the rest of their lives. So what can we do to serve those that need us instead of just watching it,
So Yen, you've been a participant in this for how long now?
I want to say around 5-6 years. I've lost count, but a good amount of time.
And so you've been a participant and a counselor now,
Yes,
right?
I am.
Okay. So for you, as someone, how old were you when you first participated?
Oh gosh, I think it was my summer going into sophomore. So how old are sophomores? Like 16.
16.
So probably 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember what you did that first year and how you felt? Like what kind of inspired you to take part in it?
Oh, so funny story. I didn't know about this until my mom said, "Pack your bags. You're going somewhere next week."
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
You were
And-
voluntold.
Yeah, I was voluntold. So she said, "You're going somewhere next week." And we're like, "Oh, we're going on family vacation or something?" She's like, "No, just you and your sister, because I have 2 younger sisters and one was old enough to go with me." So she was like, "Pack your bags. You're going." And she dropped us off. And she was like, "You are doing Summer in the City." And I was like, "What is Summer in the City?"
Oh my gosh.
And we showed up to like a high school. So I'm just like, "Oh, this is probably just a day thing. Why do I need like 7 pairs of clothes?"
Oh my goodness.
So it was definitely new. I was definitely very shy back then. But throughout the week, it was a great experience. And I'm glad that I was voluntold to go. And when I came home, my mom was like, "How was it?" And like I was like, "I'm going back next year."
Wow, really?
And since then, I've been there.
Do you remember what any of those first experiences from that first trip?
Sure. So I guess meeting with everyone is definitely a new experience. Like you're meeting a whole bunch of other people your age, and the Diocese of Camden. Like I'm from Most Precious Blood in Collingswood, so like I've grown up around the area. So meeting other people close by, like around South Jersey, it was like eye-opening. It's like, oh, there's so many other people than just my parish. So that was a great experience. So like basically you have to live with these people for like a whole week. So you get to know these people pretty well. And for the sites, like Jose was saying, every day we go out to a different site. So whether it be like a cemetery or a soup kitchen or a nursing home, you always get to meet new people in different ages, different groups, different situations. And it's definitely eye-opening because, you know, as like high schoolers, I guess the summer is all about, you know, beaches, hanging out with your friends, like just having your time with like social media or whatever you please. And this is like a week away from all of that to like, I don't know, I want to say like humble yourself and try out new ways to enjoy your summer and not be just about vacation and like all of that.
That's a good way. That's a good descriptor of it, because it really does kind of centers you back. Because you're right. You know, well, I mean, Lord knows that I miss summer vacation as a young person. Actually, I'm now thinking of my son who's 13 and just kind of chilling for the entire summer, and I'm suddenly a bit jealous of it that he's getting to do that. But the truth of the matter is it's a bad habit to get into. You really actually do want to be sort of involved and remember that there's a bigger world out there that we should be a part of. I mean, Mary, you've participated in it. What are some of your not as a participant, but as someone at Catholic Charities where you've had people come? I mean, famously, you did something called gleaning last year, right? Or 2 years ago, right?
Yes, that's right. And my colleague Christina Chillum could definitely describe what gleaning is better than I could, but I was part of it. And it basically involves people going out in Salem County to different farms, kind of weeding through produce that would otherwise be thrown out. A lot of it's still good, though, and can be used for local food pantries, especially in Salem County, which I think is considered a food desert. You know, there aren't fresh local stores at every corner, and that, you know, healthy, fresh food is so important.
There's a bit of irony there too, because Salem County is primarily farmland, and yet it's still considered a food desert. For anyone who doesn't understand, a food desert is if you're in a community that doesn't have easy access to getting to a food store. Believe it or not, there are not Wegmans everywhere in South Jersey. It's not even Acme's. You know, your local bodega is sometimes the only place where you can get food, and oftentimes that's processed food. You can't get fresh food. Even in the midst of Salem County, where you're surrounded by farmland, it can be difficult to get food.
And if you don't have a car, I mean, that's like a full day of taking a bus, getting groceries as much as you can carry back home on the same bus to get home. I mean, it's a struggle for a lot of people. Yeah.
And gleaning is actually, if I'm not mistaken, gleaning is in the Bible. I mean, it's a requirement of the Bible. Correct, Jose?
Yes.
He looked at Jose because he knew I would not be able to.
No, we covered it last year in our virtual.
Yeah.
Last year, last year's Summer in the City was virtual, and we did actually. Yen and Aaron teamed up for that gleaning day with Mary. And yes, gleaning is in the Old Testament, and I don't know off the top of my head, so go back and watch Summer in the City virtual.
I remember it. It has to do with something related to your farmland, where such a percentage of your farmland was supposed to be intended to go to people in need, even in those days. Think of it as like a farm tithe. It's not a donation, actually. I mean, the idea is that the people are supposed to come and glean themselves. That you basically open up something like 10% of your farm to locals to come and be able so that you could feed the people nearby.
Right.
So there is very much a spiritual, biblical element to gleaning.
It is, and we are having it again this year, but we'll do a different podcast about that with Christina sometime.
Yeah.
But I remember last year. I guess I met you last year then.
Yeah, I did meet you last year.
It was great to see, you know, young people just rolling up their sleeves, like just doing whatever was needed, whether it was sorting through like 1,000 tomatoes and, you know, chucking the old ones. I think Jose may have thrown at one of those old ones at me.
I don't know that it was necessarily me.
John Kalitz, cough, cough.
So I didn't say it.
Do you remember which was it just tomatoes, or were you guys pulling out? Because I feel like it's been
there was
There was-
eggplant,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, watermelons,
Cucumbers.
wasn't there?
There was like watermelons,
Yeah.
tomatoes, I think cucumbers.
Yeah.
We stopped by a few farms.
Right.
We just drove around and gleaned a whole bunch of farms, but it was
Yeah,
fun.
and I remember chucking a lot of heavy boxes. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's, when you think about it, you go to Salem County, and especially for young people not quite knowing what to expect, it's literally like, all right, everyone pile in this truck with this person you haven't met. We're going to this farm and then that farm. And it's kind of just like a wild day, a really fun, interesting day. But just watching the young people just, okay,
It sounds a lot more suspect when you talk about it.
Oh God, it kind of does. There's always a plan and a coordinator, but it's not your typical. Okay, we stay in this place the whole day to do X, Y, and Z. It's all over the
There's
place.
a lot of moving around.
Sorry.
Yen, is that one of the things that kind of is fun about it?
Yeah, I think it was I think the fun part was moving around because you're not just in one spot, which can get tiring, and just like a full day of just like sorting tomatoes will get tiring. But we went and did a whole bunch of farms with different produce, and it was really surprising to see how much produce there was that can't be given to like a supermarket or something. And just the thought of how many people can be fed with all of those produce was like rewarding, because you're like, oh, I'm not just doing this to like clean their farm for them, but to give to people who actually need it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a blast. Now, so there are service projects, but there's a lot of spirituality to this as well.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you were doing it this year, but I know in years past you've done stuff with the CFR sisters. Didn't they do something? It was called the Burning Bush.
There it is.
I think.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So Burning Bush is, spoiler alert, it is probably the most intimate evening that we have at Summer in the City in regards to one-on-one time with Jesus, right? So the CFR sisters do an amazing job at organizing this. It's probably the easiest night for me because I just have to make sure the young people get there. And then I let sisters they take it and they roll with it, and it's great. But Burning Bush, why? Because the structure, the monstrance is set atop this wooden structure. And at all the arms of the structure, or the branches, if you will, there's a candle that's lit. And the monstrance with Jesus is at the very, very top, and we kind of form circles around the burning bush. And they lead you in adoration, song, reflection. Usually there's someone comes to speak to our young people about life and what it means to serve and how it fills them. And throughout the night, there's the opportunity for confession. But I think the biggest impact of the night is when whichever one of our priests are serving that evening processes around with the monstrance. So then it's like, and the sisters are very, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for?
Passionate?
Both passionate, but very...
Subtle?
No, the opposite.
Overt?
Just very, like, on purpose, put the monstrance right in front of your face. Like, they're very, like, it's your time, right? So you could be sitting, there's one person on each side of you, somebody in front of you, somebody behind you, but it's like,
up close,
here's
and personal.
Jesus. Yeah. And for
people get emotional.
For whatever reason, Jesus reaches out through the monsters and just grabs people and like,
Wow.
hey, I'm here. And they do. I mean, I don't want to put the boys on blast, but the Wimberg brothers, I'll never forget it because not last year, obviously, but the year before, they were altar servers, right? They were serving, and they're processing with Father and the sisters, but the whole time they're just crying, the whole time. And as the monstrous got to the next person, they'd cry a little harder. The next person, they'd cry louder. I'm like, these guys aren't going to make it. There's like 60 kids in this place, and kid number 5, they're just a mess. But it's such a beautiful thing to see.
It's okay for
no, they're a
boys
good
to cry,
mess. It's a
Jose.
great mess. It's a
They were
beautiful,
moved.
moving mess.
Yeah.
But just ugly cries. But it was great. It's great. So
2 years ago, the sisters invited me to stay for that, and I said no.
see?
And I was
God
right.
forbid Mike shows some emotion.
I probably would have cried. I would have cracked more than anybody else, because it's a very powerful experience, and to your point earlier, it's very intimate. I mean, it's really, we talk about we talk about spirituality and service and things like that, but too often we don't get to have that intimate time with our spirituality. And Summer in the City really allows that. And I mean, let me ask you, Yen. I mean, in your long history, your long life so far, it's at the ripe old age of 21.
Yes.
21. Okay. Do you remember that many times in your past when you were that sort of focused on your spirituality, or is Summer in the City really sort of like the apex for that?
I think like overall, like generally, like most times when I go on like retreats or parish retreats, those are like the only times when I can actually focus on like the intimate relationship between me and Jesus. Everyday lives is pretty busy, so you kind of get lost in touch of that. But Summer in the City, like I know that's one of the biggest highlights of, and what I look forward to every year, to have that that moment, that day, that hour, for just like my relationship with Jesus. And even though, like Jose was saying, you're surrounded like 360 with a whole bunch of people, like people walking around, going to like confession, and like just sitting, like it feels like it's just you, and it's just like, I guess I want to say like a vulnerable space. It's just it feels like it's just you and the monstrance there and Jesus, even though it's not. But it's a great experience, and I know every single time I've cried personally, all happy tears, not sad tears, but it's a great experience, and I hope that anyone who is able to come, or hopefully looks forward to it.
Yeah, that actually, Yen brings up a good point, which you probably should have mentioned earlier. If people want to find out more about this, how do they? How do
when
they?
Is it?
And yeah, sure. When is it? That's another.
So
it'll be in the show notes, of course. But I do want. I figure we should at least promote it now while we're midway through the podcast.
Right. So we're looking at the week of August 15th. So that drop off would be that Sunday, and pickup would be Saturday morning. But
do you always start on the Feast of the Assumption?
No.
Oh, wow.
Usually we are involved in the Feast of the Assumption, but it actually fell on Sunday. And oops.
It's going to take place in Atlantic City, right?
Yeah. But they arrive in the evening. They'll arrive Sunday evening. Like I said, at the Blessed Carlo Acuti Center, registration...
In Absecon, right?
In Absecon. Registration is $160, but that covers the meals, lodging, and all the materials. And then to register, you can go to www.camdendiocese.org/youth-ministries/summer in the city. Or you can go to the office Facebook page and find the link to that super long link.
Or just go to Google and say Camden Diocese, Summer in the City. That'll find it as well.
Or you can email me at jose.rodriguez@camdendiocese.org.
So that's a total of 6 days, right? 6 days or 7?
So the work is the Monday through Friday is work.
That is, so I feel like that's a short period of time, but so much takes place in such a short.
Honestly.
So during the day, you have these service opportunities. What does kind of the reflection or aftermath of the day look like?
So the days kind of go like this. It's morning prayer, which I believe is usually around 7 a.m. By 7:30, they should be having their breakfast. Now, granted, it isn't. It's you're not getting. It's not like eggs, bacon, sausage. It's cereal,
no breakfast
bagels,
buffets,
muffins. No, right? It's the kind of stuff that we grab for breakfast on the way out the door to try to get to work.
True.
Yeah.
They have to pack our lunch in the morning. So the mornings, it's like right away
crazy.
you're moving because the bus is leaving. We got to get to work. And then they arrive at their work sites. Usually by 2, 3 o'clock, they're done. Then they come back, right? They come back to the center. And we'll give them some downtime. So here's some time to kind of just relax. That's that fellowship time where they're able to be with one another and say, hey, what'd you do today? Oh, well, today I went to the cemeteries and did this. Or today I was with the sisters and we did this. And then they have the opportunity to shower, change, do their thing, and then we come back for dinner, right? So a family every night will assist with the preparations for dinner, putting out the tables, putting out the plates, the forks, and actual preparation of dinner. And then we have dinner together. And then after dinner is when we'll go into our reflection. So we'll look at a different part of the gospel, reflect on that, and invite people to share their experiences for the day. And it's usually one of the reflection questions is, how did you see Jesus today, or where, or in who?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that, and just do some nighttime prayer, and then hang out again for a little bit until it's time for bed. One evening we'll have either Summer in the City alum or a seminarian come and talk to us, and that'll be the reflection. We'll do mass. But Thursday night's the big one with Burning Bush, and it's Thursday night for a reason, because you've worked, right, those 3 days, and you've already had some pretty deep experiences. So when Thursday comes around, you're, like Yen said, you're vulnerable. Like, you've seen things that maybe you haven't seen before. You've experienced some things, and by Thursday, honestly, you're already pretty beat. Like, you're already pretty tired physically, but mentally also. Just because it's like, you think to yourself the whole week, like, oh my God, like, I had no idea this was happening right like in my backyard. Like, there are homeless, hungry, sick, elderly people that just don't get any attention, and here I am for a week giving them the world, and it's like, oh my God, how am I supposed to do this when I go home?
Right.
So it is, like, emotionally overwhelming. So Thursday's like that day.
That's what it's all about, going out to the margins,
That's it.
finding the people there.
It's what we've been called to, and this week's just a subtle reminder of that. And hopefully, these guys go home and they share that with their families, and it encourages their families to want to go out. I can't wait for Jack to be part of Summer in the City so he can go home and be like, Dad, we gotta go.
Mike's gonna do what Yen's mother did, just drop him off.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm totally on board with that. That's a week without my son at home. Sounds awesome. No, I mean, he'll get a lot out of this, is what I meant.
I'm sure a lot of parents can relate.
Yeah, I'm sure they can.
Thanks, Mom and Dad, for dropping your kid off.
Well, actually, Mary, if I'm not mistaken, has volunteered to embed herself for 24 hours with Summer in the City this year, which she'll actually be staying the night and getting that first-person account this year and doing a little story for us, right?
It is, and I thought
I'm happy to. We have not fleshed out the details yet, Mike, but
no, I think those are the details. I think we got to figure it out.
Just be there, because here's what it is usually, like, our friends from Star Herald or they come down and they catch a lot of the kids at the sites and a lot of what happens during the day, but a lot of the movement and prayer and, like, the emotional stuff, the fellowship, the coming together, camaraderie happens in the evening. And by that time, everybody's, the staff is back home and going through the pictures and editing and stuff. But, like, I wanted to catch that essence, that side of the Summer in the City, where our young people really come to understand and realize that there are other high schoolers like them, that there are other people on the other side of the diocese that are in high school, are struggling with some of the same things they're struggling with, but still manage to find time to do something that is bigger than they are. And I think that's that thought process, that little piece brings them so close that even when they're outside of Summer in the City, years down the road, they're still communicating and they're still reaching out to one another, and they're meeting up and doing things. And then bullying the director of Youth and Young Adults to be like, hey, are we doing Summer City? You need to do Summer in the City. So here we are.
Is that what you do, Yen? You bully the boss?
Be honest.
Not too much, but yes. You're like, Jose, when is it starting? When's the planning? Where it's happening?
I'm like, Yen, there's a whole global pandemic happening.
Well,
you gotta give me some time here.
So, Yen, for you as a participant, was it an easy decision to come back as a counselor?
Oh, yes, definitely. When I heard the news that we were doing it even last year as a virtual, I said yes right away, because I know, like, it's hard, especially from last year. It was hard. It's going to be hard this year because we lost a lot of people because of the pandemic, and, many people are moving away for college, for all the seniors from, 2 years ago, and it's going to be hard to get everyone, but hopefully that anyone who has been can reach out to, friends, cousins, siblings, and just tell them about their experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because this year the Summer in the City program is definitely in, like, a rebuilding stage, because what it has been is that natural progression. of, okay, I'm a participant, boom, now I'm a junior counselor. So last year, having to try to guide this through pandemic, we lost a year. So we lost a whole generation of summer in the city who would have been seniors. So like they aged out. So since there wasn't that natural progression, they're off to college, they're at their universities, and now it's like, okay, we moved on from summer in the city. So it's really rebuilding and starting anew with a new group, right? Starting like honestly, summer in the city had become like a family reunion for a lot of our young people. Yeah. But it's like we were forced to take that year, and we couldn't bring people together. And we did really well with some of the Zoom, because what it was last year was we did the work in the morning, and the video would go out in the morning, and in the afternoons we did like a live Zoom reflection. But the reflections ended up turning into like a lot of just nostalgic reminiscing of what summer in the city would have been. So again, there was that gap. So starting new, but I think it's almost a double-edged sword, right? Because you're going to miss the people that you're used to seeing every year, but at the same time, it has gifted the opportunity for a lot of young people who haven't experienced yet to experience it and be able to share that. So still really excited for it. And this is, a growing year, but we have some great sites set up.
Can you preview any of the places you're going to?
I can, if I must. So we will be helping at Holy Cross Cemetery in Mays Landing, which is it's a corporal work of mercy, and we'll do some beautification work there. We are set up to work with the CFR Sisters in Atlantic City at the Father Benedict House, and that could be a variety of things, whatever they need done.
Their Father Benedict House typically is working with people in the community, the poor and needy in the community. So it could be something like that, but it could be something else entirely.
You could paint a room or do something. So, Catholic Charities in Atlantic City, packing food or working in their thrift store. The Arc of Atlantic County, which is working with people with disabilities, and just having kind of activities with them, and also working in their thrift store. This year we've opted to make the actual center itself one of the work sites, so one of the families will stay behind, and it'll just be tidying up, cleaning, staying on top of things, disinfecting tables, chairs, whatever, and then prepping.
You mean the Acuta Center? Okay.
You keep saying family. Is that kind of the name of each?
Yeah, so that Sunday evening.
When you first said that, I'm like, how many relatives are in this one?
No, that Sunday evening when they arrive, we usually have like a dinner with their parents and the participants.
Oh, that's
and then,
nice.
Yeah, and then we tell the parents, okay, you guys got to go. This was great. Dinner's over. See you, bye. And we bring all the young people together, and I have the task of beforehand putting the families together. What happens is I'll say, okay, Mike, Mary, Yen, Maria, you guys are a family. Okay, this is your family unit for the week. You guys have to name yourselves. And you come together and you guys will come up with a family name, and that's your unit for the week. You don't know each other from Adam. 9 times out of 10, I try to do that on purpose. But by the end of the week, it's funny because sometimes you get a little bit of like family rivalry, like, oh, we worked with the sisters on Monday and we did this. Oh, well, we worked with the sisters yesterday and we did
Gotta
this.
one up each other.
It's how much can each family do each day?
Right.
Just healthy competition, which it's high school students will be high school students. But it's great because that's how we break up the chores and assign certain things. And the morning of, we do our morning prayer. And that's when the work goes out. Okay, so, the Rodriguez Rockets will be going to the Arc today, and stuff like that. And it's great because they really do. They take it, they embrace it, and it's phenomenal.
Man, I hated getting split up, whenever back in high school, whatever activity it was, there'd always be the supervisor who makes sure that you and your bestie who went with you get put into different groups, but it always works out for the best. Pushes people out of their comfort zone. And
so Yen, as someone who lived all through that, I mean, was the family life something that you had a hard time understanding at first, or was that something that everyone just kind of jumps right into?
Definitely, it's really hard at the beginning. It doesn't click. Like, you don't know these people that you're paired up with. And most of the time, Jose does do, and, like, splits siblings apart, cousins, relative, friends, people from the same parish.
Merciless.
I'm intentional. That's the word I was looking for.
Intentional.
I'm intentional about it.
Yeah, so we're all split up, and it's definitely not easy because, like I said, you don't know these people. But throughout the week, like, you're put into situations together. So whether it be working at a homeless shelter and, like, experience something, like, you're not there by yourself with your family unit and your leader or counselor. But throughout the week, that's how you get close through, like, the hard, like, where you're, like, sweating outdoors, doing, I don't know, like, painting the curbside, which I've personally done. Like, we're out there, like, sweat, tears, no blood, but,
God willing.
but yeah, like, throughout just, like, service sites or, like, the downtime, we really do become a family. And, like, I still keep in touch with some of the people from the past years. So it's definitely an experience. Hard at first, but easy at the end.
It's funny because those first couple days, like, you'll see the relatives try to gravitate towards each other, and then I gotta be the back. Yo, you
the bouncer.
two, get away from each other. Like, go to your families. But then by the end of the week, it's like Yen doesn't even know her sisters anymore. Like, she has nothing to do with them. So it's funny because it's like, okay, you got to go back home with your sisters.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go home with them. I want to go with the family. But it is.
That's
It's a beautiful thing to see. Because, again, at other diocesan events or masses or out at the mall or whatever, you bump into each other again. It's like, I know you.
Yeah.
We were in the same family, whatever. How you been? And it's just... It's church, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's literally the essence of church. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked a lot about the Acuta Center, Carlo Acuta Center, but we haven't really described what it is. Can you tell us a little bit about that for people who maybe have never experienced it?
So the Carlo Acuti Center, the Blessed Carlo Acuti Center, is a center that Bishop has blessed and deemed for the use of youth. Primarily for the use of youth and young adult ministry. I know the sisters have confirmations. What? The sisters have retreats there. Some of our parishes do confirmation retreats there. But it really is, it was an old convent. So its first floors has some meeting rooms, kitchen, and then the second and third floors are bedrooms.
The chapel too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep, chapel. So it's really just a space that has been named for, like, the purpose is for ministry with young people, which is great because it just facilitates everything. You know, the office wants to put a retreat together for young people. We have a place. One of the parishes wants to do a confirmation retreat or a retreat with young people. They have a place to go to. It's not so much searching for, hey, who can take us in for the week or who can do this. It's available.
And it sleeps a lot of people too, right?
Yeah, yep. I think it's I think there's 20 rooms on each floor, I believe is what it is. Something like that.
And everybody doubles up, everybody gets a roommate, right?
What's that?
Does everyone have a roommate typically?
Well, usually. This year, COVID has kind of forced us to change things a little bit. But this year, I purposely want to give everyone their own room. So everyone will have their own space at the end of the day. We're going to try to do a lot of our stuff outside. You know, a lot of the activities when we get back, it's spending a lot of time outside so that there is some space. Being as safe as we can with everything, and just, like I said, one of the sites, the same days, you know, family stays behind and let's clean, let's disinfect.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about high schoolers here.
Yeah. They're messy.
I was a high schooler once, and now looking back, I was like, ugh, I get it. But so just being clean, you know, trying to stay on top of everything, the best that we can. And you know, I felt like giving everybody their own room for this year would allow for some much needed rest and just downtime.
And actually, these folks, the people who take part in it now, don't realize how good they have it. Because back in the day, it used to be sleeping on the floor of a high school, right?
Yes. So like I said, Holy Spirit High School was our home. The boys down one wing of the high school, the ladies down the other wing, and in the classrooms, on the floors.
It was some cold, hard floors.
Yeah, and but it was hot and muggy. You know, the adults would be out in the hallways.
Sleeping in the hallways.
Sleeping in some of the corridors in the hallways just to make sure we had nobody went walking. To make sure nobody was in the wrong wing at the wrong time. It was. I mean, that was intense. That was service. I specifically remember my first year working here at the diocese, I only did half of the week, and I I met with my family at the cemetery, but I spent about 20 minutes in the mausoleum by myself, and that was scary as I waited for them. Yeah, that was terrifying.
That'll do it.
Our colleagues here at cemeteries had a cooler with water for the kids, and I was just sitting in the mausoleum, and some of the ice inside the cooler melted, so things shifted, and I bolted out of the mausoleum. I was not hanging around to find out if it was ice or not. All I know is I heard something that didn't sound kosher, so I left, and I waited for these brave high schoolers to show up. But that was my first year. Yeah, the second year I stayed the whole time, and it was sleeping on the floors every day, and just, it was tough. It was tough.
My back hurts just thinking about that.
But it was worth it. I mean, a little bit of sacrifice.
Yeah.
So Yen, do you spend much time encouraging people to come to Summer in the City?
Yeah, I do. Well, first off, it was like my siblings at first, but now I'm trying to reach out to all like my younger cousins or friends that I know of, and like as a catechist at my parish, I'm encouraging the confirmation students, since I'm one of the confirmation catechists. So I'm just like, I know you're like not of age yet because you do have to be high school or going into ninth grade. So I'm just like look into it. I know I'm not going to see you next year because they'll be confirmed by then. But I'm just like, this is a great opportunity. Like, it sounds like a lot, but it's like the most rewarding experience that you'll ever get. Yeah. And even though like our parish tries to give like opportunities of service, like this is like the greatest opportunity in Atlantic City, which is like our neighboring city. So
yeah.
And as a counselor, how's that different than just being a regular participant? You said you're a counselor as well, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the term
so
I am now.
So what do counselors do?
Yeah, so as a participant, you're mainly like doing all the work, but us counselors still do the same amount of work too. I guess the main difference is help leading the participants and students throughout the week. So, encouraging them like, oh, they might not want to like talk to this certain person at a shelter. Be like, like they're people too. They're not just the homeless on the streets and they have nothing. Like they have stories.
Right.
So I guess one of the big things is encouraging to go out of your comfort zone for the week. Yeah. And just like encourage them to talk to one another, like families. Like we want to get to know each other and everyone who's there too.
Yeah. Did you volunteer to become a counselor, or after like a certain number of years are people automatically?
Were you voluntold again?
Yep.
I was kind of voluntold. Jose texted me, said,
fell right into it.
Yep.
I said, hey, we got Summer in the City this year. Welcome back. What do you mean? Well, just show up. We got prep meetings on this day and this day.
Yep, I was told about a month ago.
Oh
Nice.
my God.
That's what I find out.
Surprise.
But it is their role as counselors is to lead by example, right? So they receive the work from whoever the coordinator is at the site, and it's like, all right, guys, let's do this. Let's get to work, and just making sure that everybody's having a good time. As my predecessor would say, happy, healthy, and holy, right? So that's their job, to make sure that everyone's having a happy, healthy, and holy time.
And I, as someone who's an introvert like myself, I know you guys all laugh when I say that, but it's true.
Right.
I have difficulty being around people, or like big groups of people and stuff like that. So anytime I have to go to a conference or some big meeting or something like that, I rely on people like Yen to make sure that I am not hiding in a corner somewhere, but in fact engaging and things like that. Because there is a natural inclination if you are going to something that there aren't a lot of people that you know, or you've been been separated from your loved ones by the terrible dictatorial director, you may have difficulty with that. So that it is good that you've had people in the program who understand the kind of nuances of it, because this is you've said it a couple of times now, it's a very intense week.
It is. It is. I don't want to, try to sugarcoat it. It is intense.
But every person I've ever spoke to who's taken part in it, they all say the exact same thing, that it was a life-changing, incredibly rewarding event to be a part of. And there is a part of me that's quite jealous that I am now too old and jaded and angry to ever be a part of something like this. Because from what I can tell, all the participants they get an experience via this that they wouldn't have in any other form.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that is is the staff, right? It's my job is to logistics, get the space, get the work, get the people there, and make sure it flows. But if it wasn't for the staff, like if it wasn't for these counselors, if it wasn't for those people who are just, you see that person and you see summer in the city, because they give of themselves. It's not, the kids give of themselves, but they're off.
Right.
They're off. These are people with jobs. These are people with families, responsibilities, who say, I'm going to put that on hold for a week because I want to serve Young Church and help them serve the needy. So if it wasn't for these people, Summer in the City wouldn't happen. Because me, I'll have a whole staff meeting by myself and talk about how I'm going to get through the week. But when I'm able to surround myself, and I think everyone asks, what's the secret to youth and young adult ministry? That's your silver bullet. That's your secret. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals who are open to speaking life into the young people you serve. And the office is blessed to have those type of people around for Summer in the City.
No, it is amazing, and honestly, it's probably been a great deal of benefit for you too, as someone who has to put together these events year after year. And we wanted to touch on this for just a few minutes, but you are getting married in February, so
what is this?
I knew you would work that in somehow.
This is a great opportunity to really showcase your ability of putting together an event like Summer in the City and making sure that you and your beloved fiance Star have an incredible experience for your wedding.
Somebody.
For what?
For the wedding.
For the wedding.
I don't want to do no planning. I don't listen. I love my fiance to death, and I have to say that because there's a contract that I have to say that with her.
Don't you say a bad word about Star.
No, but it's like, when it's come down to the invitations and the save the dates and the flowers and the colors and and it's a lot. I tell her, babe, as long as that day.
Careful, this is being recorded.
So right. Here, gentlemen, listen to me very carefully. When you find yourselves in this position and your woman is trying to go through all these details with you and you've just about done, all you got to say is, all that matters to me. This is what I said. All that matters to me is the day that I'm at that altar, I look up and it's you walking towards me. That's all that matters. The rest of it
has to be planned and coordinated by somebody, Jose.
Who is not the groom, because all that matters to me is that it's Star walking towards me.
Well, I agree with you, actually.
Cute.
that's all.
See?
That's all I remember.
It's cute, but logistically, somebody's got to go through all those little details.
You're not wrong. Literally, the only thing I remember from my wedding, and the reception, were the doors opening in the back and seeing Jennifer there.
See?
Aww.
It's the only memory I have.
I could wear a paper bag. I don't care. As long as it's her.
Yeah.
And then, Father will ask me.
Wear a paper bag.
No, Father will ask me, do you? And I said, yeah, maybe. I guess we're here. But that's it.
Are you inviting all of the Summer in City folks to the wedding?
The who?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa, don't go down that road.
Well, they can come to the wedding. They might not be invited to the reception, but I'm sure the wedding's probably open to everybody, right?
All the church is open to whoever. The church, anybody can come to church.
You know what?
To
all the Summer in the City folks, I'm inviting you to Star and Jose's wedding ceremony at sometime in February. I don't know. I'm photographing. I don't even know which weekend it is in February.
Thank God for that. This is out there inviting everyone.
But I'm telling you, everyone should come to the wedding ceremony.
February 31st.
Is it really? Oh, yeah, February 31st. Perfect. I will definitely be there.
Mary, I see what you did there.
Welcome back, Mary. Welcome back.
Well, I'm very excited about Summer. I'm very excited about your wedding, but I'm very excited about Summer in the City as well. I do hope if anybody's interested that they will take part in it. Go to camdendiocese.org and look up Summer in the City. Google it. It's easy to find everywhere.
If I can, Mike, just if you are thinking about it, don't wait too long because we are capping. There is a cap. So, go with your gut and just sign the registration, send it in.
Right. Well, I look forward to seeing all of Mary's reporting about it, and I look forward to hearing about it. And I probably won't be there, but I'm sure that you guys will have a great time. So thank you very much for joining me for the podcast.
Thank you.
Mary, thank you for being my co-host today. And to our listeners, thank you again for listening. And we'll be back again next week. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.